the Topsfield Town Library. We are excited to welcome Topsfield native, Masco graduate, and former employee of the Topsfield Library, Parker Jamison, back, this time to discuss her second book, The Devil's Eye. And we also have our partners with Bloxford Cable Access TV who will make this talk available for later on, so you can watch it again and again. You can share with your friends, all that fun stuff. So first, I'm going to give a brief bio. So Topsfield native, Masco graduate, Parker Jamison spent years working in the film industry from Orlando to Boston to LA. After a time in screenwriting, she decided to return to her love of real in-your-hands reading and finally read a book.
Finally, I read a book.
Finally write a book. I'm confident that there's been a lot of books read by you over the years. She drew her passion for travel, history, and action-adventure, and her love of movies like Indiana Jones, The Mummy, games like Uncharted and Tomb Raider, and the works of Clive Cussler and James Rollins. So today we are, 11 months ago, we were here and we talked about your first book, Rager the Jinn. Now we are discussing The Devil's Eye, the second book, and let's give it I'll just read a brief blurb of it here. So, a lost notebook of the legendary alchemist John Dee surfaces at a London auction where a scandal-ridden billionaire snaps it up. A financier with a fascination for the occult, Mark Pearson, believes the notebook contains the location of the Devil's Eye, a mystical stone promising to unlock the cosmic knowledge of God. In the hands of the world's foremost blackmailer, it could mean total power. CIA operatives Ridley Samaras and Buckler Douglas decipher John Dee's encryption within the pages of the notebook, plunging into a high-stakes hunt across Europe to find the missing artifact before Pearson does. So, why don't we just, jump right in? So, do you consider The Devil's Eye to be really kind of like a sequel to your first one? Is it sort of a continuation? What are your thoughts about it, on that?
It's a sequel, but it doesn't have to be read as a sequel. I think you'd have a richer experience in reading the second one if you'd read the first one, because there are some callbacks, there are small references, but it's completely, it's not necessary.
Yeah.
So it's the same main character, and Booker Douglas also appeared in the first book, but there's some new characters, new cast, and so you can read them as standalones, or you can enjoy the journey more and go get the first one first.
Immerse yourself in the universe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what inspired you to pick up the proverbial pen, not probably the actual pen, and start writing this character again? And was it immediately after you finished the first one?
Yeah. You can't let it go.
Yeah.
It was always intended to be a character series, so take a main character and stick with them for a series of adventures. And so that was always the intention. I was like, there are a lot of stories to be told in this sort of universe. And, limit is your imagination. So, what was the second part of your question?
What inspired you to start writing this particular character again, which I think you really mentioned that you, so I guess my follow-up to that was going to be, are there more stories to tell?
Yeah. There are loads more stories to tell. And I always have to rein myself in from letting my mind wander when I'm getting toward the end of writing a book or I'm editing, and I start thinking about, the next one's just percolating in my head. It's already kind of a living thing, and I have to keep putting it away and not letting it get in front of me. I need to focus till I'm done. But by the time I'm done, I'm raring to go on the next one. Yeah. So that happened as soon as I was finishing this one. I knew what I was getting pulled into for the third one, and so that's what I'm working on right now. But there's always another story popping up in my head. Can't help it.
So during 11 months ago when you were here, I asked you a very similar question. You said you were a third of the way done with what ended up, being The Devil's Eye.
Oh, really?
That's what you said, at least.
Yeah, that probably was.
So I was seems like a fast turnaround time. What was your timeline writing this?
I think Rage of the Jinn took me 5 months, and I think this took me 6.
Okay.
So I spent about 1 month like immersively researching and plotting out the whole story, and then I set myself deadlines, which really helps, and then I basically gave myself to the day 5 months to write it. And it's easier if you know where you're going. Like if you're not building a house by guessing, it goes a lot faster when you have blueprints.
Yeah.
So I have blueprints. It helps me stay on task, stay on track. I'm not sitting there wondering what comes next. I do have a direction.
So I guess I should ask, how far along are you on number 3?
Not as far as I wish.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm only about 13,000 words in.
Okay.
So this one was about 97,000 words, so got a ways to go. But I'm enjoying it. I love being back in it. I love the hiatus time off of writing between finishing and publishing is just really long. It's a long haul, so I'm thrilled to be back in the pages and, living through another adventure right now. Love it.
I guess you kind of opened up this question in one of your past answers. Couldn't help to notice in the acknowledgments you have a shout out to a librarian at Westminster Abbey.
Yeah.
So I got to ask about what the research process was like. How did your friendly local librarian help you along the process?
Yep. I clearly overlooked the local librarian.
No. I'm not fishing for compliments
Get to the next
here.
one, Sean.
I'm not fishing for compliments here. I was wondering what the folks at Westminster Abbey did.
So this person did not actually help me with books.
Okay.
The librarian at Westminster Abbey helped me with a problem and a question I had about the Abbey and about what's buried beneath the Abbey that was not available really anywhere online.
Okay.
I could not find this. I searched for days and weeks, and finally I thought, I bet there's a human being out there who could probably help me. Like, someone has to know. So I wrote to Westminster Abbey, and they kindly answered me, and we went back and forth, and I had some questions, and no spoilers, but there are things buried under Westminster Abbey.
So because I was going to ask, were you accurate?
Yes.
Can I use it as a manual or?
Yes.
Okay.
Totally.
All right.
Yep.
What lessons did you learn from the journey writing your first book, publishing it, that you kind of took in the process for this one?
There are always more typos than you think.
Okay.
I could read that thing 19 times. I'm not catching them. That's honestly probably the thing that haunted me the most from the first one, is how many people miss typos.
Yeah.
I could have 12 people read it, and the 13th person finds the typos. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to hire you in advance. I think it was weird because I was actually trying to remember some of my process that seemed to work well in the first one. I was trying to remember it by the time I got to the second, and now again I'm on the third, and I'm like, I should have written down what I did. It would help me to write things down. It's kind of getting back in the rhythm. I found a really good working day intellectual rhythm. Some people like to wake up at 5 a.m. and sit in a chair and write, and I actually really can't do that. I need to warm up my brain. So I need to do all the stuff I have to do in the AM, and all the while I'm thinking, and I can't wait to write. So by the time I get to it, I'm bursting with things to say.
I guess you kind of answered this already, but I did want to ask. So do you have a storyboard mapped out before writing of basically where the plot's going to go, or are you a little bit more spontaneous when it comes to your writing approach, or no?
All planned out. Okay. All planned out. It really is. It's a lot easier to correct things on the blueprint than in the house. So I just never want to get to the point of like having to rearrange everything, rewrite. It's so much easier to fix problems in the planning stage, and it's also easier to see it laid out, and you can see sort of maybe some of the pacing issues or some of the like plot twist areas that aren't clear. So it is for me, I have to plot it out, and I think that a lot of that comes from having written screenplays, because they have to be tight, they can only be so long. You have to be very economical with your words. You can't go on and on. There's pacing to take into account. So, people who have read these will remark that they feel like movies, and like that's kind of the point. Like, it's a movie in your head. Yeah. So I want it to feel like that immersive and that vivid, and also with the pacing of, like, a little slower. You get to spend more time with the characters than you would in a movie, but very much that type of thriller.
I think I said that in our first interview too, where like one thing that I felt like the vibe of both of them now is like it feels like you're reading a movie almost, and that's something that you don't really get that, especially. Honestly, you don't get that with a lot of movies nowadays. That you can watch in a movie. But sometimes people can kind of go on a little too long, and maybe the editor should have been like, you can cut this down a little bit. And that's really like here. It's like I feel like you do a good job like keeping stuff like tight, fast paced, like kind of punchy.
Good. Yes, that's the intention, and leave every chapter on a hook.
Oh yeah.
Leave every chapter. Don't let them go to bed. Do not.
Keeping people awake.
Keeping people awake and sleep deprived.
Years, right? What drew you to I guess like the driving part of the plot, like John Dee, his works, and the concoction of the Devil's Eye and stuff like that?
This is kind of cool. I thought John Dee was more well known than I've discovered he is. Real guy, one of the more weird and fascinating kind of mystical figures from history. He lived in the time of Elizabeth I. He actually became an advisor and sort of a spiritual mentor to her. He was called an alchemist, an astrologer, a conjurer, a mathematician. And the conjuring stuff was always interesting to me because they called stuff conjuring that was like just science back then. And so I was never sure of like, but was he really a conjurer, And I'd always had him in my head as like this really interesting character that I could go into history and explore. And then I actually went and started researching him, and he left copious notebooks. I mean, he had one of the biggest private libraries, but he also wrote down everything. And I discovered, no, he really was conjuring. Like, that's real. He had a medium and held like daily seances and wanted to talk to the angels and believed they were talking to him. He wrote down an entire alphabet that they gave him. Like, it was really intense. So when I got into the real research, I was kind of, oh my goodness. And it was a lot to take in, but I wanted to weave that in. And then with the modern stuff, it's always a mix of what's going on in modern day, played in with the past. I created something that wasn't in his notebooks. The Devil's Eye, to my knowledge, is not real. But I had also read a bit about Jeffrey Epstein and his fascination with futuristic science. And that was one of the reasons he was so wrapped up with MIT and loved scientists, because he had like cryogenically freezing himself type stuff. And I thought, well, what if someone like that wasn't into futuristic science but was really obsessed with the occult? And John Dee would be sort of a perfect figure to play into that. So that's the dark marriage right there.
So, like, a year ago, you mentioned that the story of Ridley's mother dying was sort of like a ripped from the headlines type thing involving the actress from Glee. I think, was it Naya Rivera?
Yeah.
You can't help but to notice between Mark Pearson and Jeffrey Epstein, and probably like you're able to put that connection together kind of fast if you're right, and Effie Cowhurst as well, and like the whole story. I was going to ask, well, what were like developing the characters, like if you go into a little more in depth about how you developed it, and if you get a lot of inspiration from real life events that inspire might not be the right word, but makes you want to write about it.
Yeah. Has anyone here seen A Knight's Tale? It's about 25-year-old movie with Heath Ledger. It's about jousting in medieval times. There's a character in that, Geoffrey Chaucer, and he has this line that he delivers to his debtors who have just humiliated him, and they got in one last dig, and then he just explodes, and he tells them, "I will eviscerate you in fiction." And he goes on to explain how, and they're not impressed. But, Geoffrey Chaucer could eviscerate someone in fiction, and it will be there for all of history to see. I'm not sure how many prints this will have, but I really felt this sort of drive to, I will eviscerate these people in fiction because they deserve it. It's not the real people, I get it. But it really motivated me. I did much too much research on Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Yeah, it was not pleasant, not fun stuff. It's dark, but I was very content to carry the story to its completion and see what happens to them, to these characters who are based on their vices. So, it was dark. I hated, this is something that authors will say, like, oh no, you have to love all your characters, even the villains. Like, you have some love for them, and that's how you relate to them. And no, you do not. I absolutely hated these characters.
There was no redeeming quality.
No, it really wasn't. And I just
really
hated
from the first second. You're just like,
yeah. And I hated being in their heads.
Yeah.
And I had to be in their heads to write certain chapters, and then I hated them for making me think their thoughts. So it was, I hope you all don't like them just as much as I don't like them.
Henry was the sidekick. Is that the right word you want to use? Partner.
Yeah.
In the first book, only very, very briefly mentioned in this one.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned earlier too that you like the idea of there being kind of like a rotating cast of partners or whatever. And this time you have the Scotsman.
Yes.
Is it Ian?
Yes.
Ian Carnegie and Booker Douglas, who was mentioned in the first one as well. What's your thought process? Why do you like that type of setup for your books? You just like having, just writing different characters, or
partially yes. I think it's more interesting and it keeps things fresher for me to sort of discover a new character. I think it's maybe more interesting for the readers to see a new person come in and see what they contribute and discover them as a character. But I also think that it makes Ridley even a little bit new in each book, because different characters bring out a different aspect of her. She'll have a different dynamic with each person. Booker, she's known for years and worked with, so she has a much easier dynamic with him, sort of looser and more joking. And then with the Scotsman, he comes in and he's a new guy, and it's not like that.
Yeah.
So there's sort of a building of a new partnership each time, and so you'll get to know Ridley in a different way, I think, each book, and you'll get something fresh. You don't know how it's going to work out, and each relationship is quite different. And so, the one in the third book is it's going to be quite different than either of the first two, which is exciting for me.
Yeah,
I love doing that.
Definitely. Would you consider the main character to be Ridley, or do you picture the main character being like the CIA unit in like as a large, where maybe Ridley in future ones won't be the main protagonist?
I don't really see that. I think there are loads of stories. Ridley was sort of the anchoring figure, like her as a character sort of built itself and developed in my head. And so, yeah, she is the anchor of all the stories for now that are in my head. She's a polyglot, so she can go to plenty of different countries. And, you know, her skill set, she was recruited for her languages, basically.
Yeah.
And so she can go to plenty of different places and get into trouble in many countries.
So, I'm curious, who was your favorite, like, newer character writing in this one?
Ian.
Was it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ian Carnegie was in my head from even the first book. Like, he just kind of appeared as a character, and I knew that he would be in the second one and play a significant part. And I was talking with someone today about the narrator for an audiobook. We'll get to that. And I was complimenting him about how much I appreciate his interpretation of Ian in the audiobook. And for the first time I really verbalized, I said, you know, he's actually kind of the soul of this story.
Yeah.
He's not the main character of the book, but he is kind of the soul of this story. And he's the character I found the easiest time writing and I related to the most. So I think it was I really enjoyed having him in the book. So no promises about the future, but I did love him as a character.
Yeah, it's kind of left on that.
Yeah, no spoilers.
Yeah, well, so let me tell you who my favorite character was.
Ooh, the
Professor
dog?
Powell.
Oh, I like that answer.
The reason why is she was just fascinating. So at first, there was a thought that, okay, that this character, without getting too much into spoilers, this character is just naive, a little bored. You mentioned, divorce, seems like, boring kind of academic life, whatever. But really, as it goes on, it's just even Ridley doesn't see, how she starts kind of playing, I guess, the game a little bit. Even kind of, I don't know, just the one, and if you read it, you'll know what I'm talking about, the conversation with Pearson about midway through over the phone,
I think I know
where it was just you felt kind of like Pearson's this charming, in the sense of smooth talker, and he almost gets out smooth talked, I guess, or whatever. And I feel like even he was he even kind of was just oh damn, you know? And so I found that fascinating. But what drove this character for you? What were you picturing in your head?
I love that answer. That's really cool because I really did love writing her character. I really did. As I was plotting it all out, she was sort of my sleeper character. She's you do think you know the trope when you walk in and you discover her in the story, and she is suddenly been pushed into the deep end, but she learns how to swim. She does. And so she learns her way through a very scary and disorienting situation she's found herself in, but she is not dumb. And she is a woman of conflicting interests and motivations. So, and for me, I'm people who know me know that I always write with people in mind, usually actors, and that just, for me, again, it's like watching a movie. And she was very much based off of an award-winning British actress named Sarah Lancashire.
Okay.
And it just, for some reason, as soon as I saw that too in my head, other aspects of her just seemed to enrich around her background and her, she's got more in her than a straightforward, fuddy professor type.
That was I feel just a really good example of when I was reading. I sort of had my expectations subverted a little bit, where I was expecting one thing, and then I'm just like, whoa, whoa.
Plot twist.
And
yeah.
I mean, you're obviously like, that happens a lot, but that was one that like stood out to me where I didn't see that one coming. I mean, in all honesty, like, with Ian Carnegie, I was just like, at first I'm like, I don't know, it seemed like, I'm just like, oh, this is gonna be bad news or something like that, and stuff like that as well. So you're always on your toes reading these your books,
Oh, good.
So how do you feel Ridley involved as a character between the first and second books?
I don't know that I would say so much evolved. It's tricky to change a character too much when you're writing a character series. In a lot of stories, you do want the main character, like, something changes from the beginning to the end. You're like, cool, but you don't want the core functions to change. But she is different in this book because different things happen to her and she's pushed to different lengths. It's darker than the first book, like emotionally, tonally, weather-wise, but I think there are some things that happen to her in this book that push her to the brink of sort of doubting her own abilities to do the job and getting really mired in things like fear, which is not something she's used to getting stuck in. And so, yeah, it affects her personally, and there are some, no spoilers, but there are some touches in certain scenes that are sort of an emotional wrench thrown into her gears by some sinister manipulation of the darker kind. That's really vague, sorry. If you've read it, you might know what I'm talking about. But yeah, you see a different side of her, and you see a deeper, more emotional side of her and the things that she goes through. And even the relationships in this book are deeper and more emotional for her. And so that, I think, I hope comes out.
So, I've said this a couple times now too, but I mentioned you definitely feel like, you definitely see like the fingerprints of previous Hollywood life in your work. It's fast moving, cinematic, all that stuff, and you're an obvious cinephile. And I always find little Easter eggs referencing movies and stuff like that, particularly good amount of Indiana Jones references, which I appreciate. And just like the idea of like the chase for a supernatural object. There's a clear bad guys. I think he had like in this one like a joke referencing top men.
Yes, that's a good catch. Top men.
I thought, and I wasn't sure, but was there's a scene where they escape through a parade. Was that a reference to The Fugitive?
No, but that's cool.
Okay.
That would have been awesome.
I was reading it and I was just like,
No, it's a much scarier parade than The Fugitive.
Yeah,
that was a happy
definitely,
parade.
Yeah.
This is not a happy parade. This is a real parade, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you go looking that up on the internet, Krampusnacht. Does anyone know what Krampus is? It's like the anti-Santa Claus used to scare kids in Europe. Real scary. Kids of Europe have apparently completely adapted to seeing these costumes in the street. Anyway, they have parades and they have torches, and so the depiction of the Krampus Fest in this is drawn directly from footage of the parades. It's pretty interesting if you look it up. But that's a cool comparison.
Yeah, I had to
like
ask because I wasn't sure.
Any Harrison Ford movie, you just throw it in there. Yeah.
I wasn't sure, but I was just like I needed to know for sure.
Check it off.
So I guess the question is just like, what are the Easter eggs that we could have missed?
There is a Friends reference. About a smelly cat named Phoebe. I don't know if it's really an Easter egg, but a few author friends of mine are mentioned actually as like someone looks around a room and sees some books on the shelf and realizes something about a character.
Yeah, all right.
But a few of those are very big names, and a few of them are slightly lesser known, and some of them I personally know. And it was actually really fun to throw them in. So like one of the authors, when he was reading it, I didn't tell him, and he got to that part, and he stopped reading, he texted me, and he's just like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, he took a photo of it and sent it to me. So that meant a lot. Like I could kind of do that. That's really fun for me.
Okay, that's really, that was in Venice, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I guess just as an aside, what did you think of the latest Indiana Jones movie?
Not bad.
Okay.
It didn't have the magic. Anybody's seen it? The Dial of Destiny with an 81-year-old Harrison Ford.
Saw it.
Yeah, I mean, pretty impressive. He could still move about like he does, but it's not bad. It just didn't have the magic.
Yeah.
It was like still a fun movie. Like, oh, I wasn't mad. Love the end.
I mean, and at the end of the day, it's just like you go in, you're just like, I'm entertained.
Yes, and you get to see.
Are you not entertained?
Are you not entertained? And you get to see, Marion Ravenwood on screen again with Indiana Jones, and you're like, okay, that's a cheat code. You got me.
Yeah.
Like, you got me. I like this.
So when I'm reading your books, like as you can probably guess, when it comes to like when I'm just like, well, is that a reference to The Fugitive? I'm always trying to be like, what, like, are you trying to incorporate something, like, and so that is like, and that might be sort of like a, like a meta extra thing, but I'm always trying to be like, can I predict like what's gonna happen? So for me, I was thinking, like, at the beginning of the book, you mentioned something along the lines of how Booker would have this amazing amount of power. It was around the time you made the Top Men reference. Like if he just kept a lot of the stuff that they found instead of. And I'm like, are you setting up Booker to be the big bad? Like, and
this book.
Well, yeah, but like I was just like, so I was like almost disoriented, where I'm just like, oh my god, like this like kind of. I know he's a, like,
it would have been a real plot twist, man.
But like he's like the kind of jolly. I mean, I know
he's a good boss.
Yeah. He seems like a nice guy and stuff like that. And I was just like, and so I was just like, well, I remember in the first Mission Impossible.
Oh yeah.
Like, I'm just like, is this going to be a Jim Phelps situation? Like, and
well, there's an idea.
But like, I was so, like, I was like almost paranoid. Like that, and like Carnegie, I'm just like, I don't like that at all. And then, and
I don't like these people.
Yeah,
I don't like these
just
people.
Like, I don't like but then this example where, on the other hand, I didn't expect out of Professor Powell what I ended up getting too. So being like on my on my toes, I think, like the biggest compliment I could give, where it's just like I legitimately didn't know what to expect. And hopefully that kind of explains what I thought of it. Where it's just I never knew what to expect. I'm like lifting up like left and right, like just like, is it you? Is it you?
It's a giant game of Clue.
Yeah. But I just want to say I really enjoyed it. I thought it was excellent. I'm so glad that you reached out and wanted to do this again.
Well, thank you.
And I guess we can open it up to questions from the people in attendance here.
Yeah. If anyone wants to know anything.
I want to know lots of things. I'm just kidding.
Sure.
I'd like to know more about your past, if you're comfortable talking about that with Eagle. You've got to have a martial arts past or some sort of weaponry past, and I'm fascinated by that. And also about any travel, because I actually went on a trip to Jerusalem with your parents.
Oh, no kidding.
And Bob. And we were at Temple Mount, so I was so excited that the last book ended up at Temple Mount. I was like, oh. So I'm just kind of wondering, like, in the areas that you travel to, that you put into your book, like how accurate are they? Are they real buildings? Like, do you go there, or are you just researching this online, or?
Yeah, this is a big one because these are globetrotters. I can't quite afford myself to go everywhere I would like. I had been to Jerusalem. I did not go to the Temple Mount, and I do write about areas which are inaccessible to me on the Temple Mount. So the internet is a marvelous, marvelous place for a researcher, and especially the people who just put on a GoPro camera and just walk around a foreign city. Just walk around. I watch so many hours of those because that's the best feeling I could get for being in a city. Like even just like the rhythm of life and how people move around and how traffic is and how's the weather and what's the spacing between this and this. So I'm so grateful to the people who do that for no money. They just put it on the internet and help me. I research through Google Maps. I research through satellite photos, and I'll draw out maps. I have a map of, I think I put this on my social media, a map of Vienna when I had like 8 characters going in different directions. And I had to like draw out on the map this street and that street, and this street meets this street, and they meet here in XX and OO, and you know. So I do loads of that. I have been, for the first book, I traveled to Portugal, and I had already been to Jerusalem. I went to the Convent of Christ, and what was cool is I'd already written the part about this huge building, and I got there, and I was thrilled because I could have given the tour myself, because I knew where everything was. And I go, yes, it works. Like, if you're super, super diligent and obsessive about online research, it works. And so that was a big deal for me. So for the second book, I went to Scotland and I did an area research thing. I went to a very famous place in Scotland, kind of spoilery, but I actually ran into the king, which was really weird. Didn't know he'd be there. The King of England.
Oh.
Yeah. He was like as far away as you are with Camilla, and I just like, oh, I didn't know he would be here today. But it was really important for me, the spatial understanding of this place, and yeah, it was invaluable, I think, and I hope that transmits into
Can I just
the
say
book.
it totally transmits, because I thought you had literally been in these places.
Yeah.
You just got the feel of the place, and you got the details that go along with it.
Well, that's good, because a lot of time goes into that, so I hope it's worth it. And as far as, martial arts background, yes, I've done Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for years. I help teach it now. I trained in firearms for years. Although one thing that was new to the second book was knives. I like knives, but I don't actually engage in knife fighting. So I really needed to understand knife fighting, and as they say about real knife fight between 2 people with blades, nobody wins. Even if you win, you've lost. And I actually got a friend of mine who's in the Army and has done Army combatives. I know him from Jiu-Jitsu, and I got him to go to the gym and train with me sometimes with dummy knives, like rubber knives that my nieces and nephews now love to play with. But I needed to understand knife fighting for a really pivotal scene in the book, and then understand how to convey a knife fight with words. So it was really that was really challenging scene, and I hope it's convincing once again. I really hope so. But yeah.
You talked about an audiobook and that you had a narrator.
Oh, yes.
What's the timeline for that? Are you starting with the first one?
No, so the audiobook is The Devil's Eye. The first draft should be completed, I think, this week. And then I send some notes and revisions back to the audiobook narrator. We send them back in a timely fashion. And I don't know if it'll be April, but if not April this month, it will be certainly in May that it will be available. And really interesting process, because when you're shopping for a voice for a series, you're looking for someone who can do all the books, really, because once you get to know their voice, they become the voice of these characters. And I opened it up for auditions online, and I expected to get like 12 to 15, maybe 20. I got 100 in 36 hours, and my ears were bleeding. And some of them were phenomenal, and some of them were comedic for me. I was like, what accent is that? Like, I don't understand. So it was interesting to sift through all of them, but one really rose to the top, and he's just got an absolutely phenomenal voice, and I've been listening to a lot of that today, and I'm just thrilled. I can't wait for people to hear the story through him. He's really great. It's nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
It's nerve-wracking to like hire someone and expect them to like bring these characters to life, specifically the characters. Like anyone could just read, the narrative, but the characterization is it's awesome. I'm loving it. Yeah. So soon.
When you're setting up a scene in your own mind before you have written anything, how do you go about structuring that? Does it just pop up with images and location, or do you invest in the more positional research?
It depends on the scene. I have to feel like I'm in it. I can't, again, this is a spatial thing. I have to know where I am so I can sort of like mentally teleport there and be there with the characters. So like even something silly like, Ridley and Booker take a train to Poland. I have to look up the train that would take them there, and I need to see the train car, and understand like what exactly this looks like, so then I can be right in it. In terms of all the characters in a scene, I can usually move them around my head. Sometimes I need maps. Sometimes it's too many for even a map, which would just become a mess. And I used Playmobiles for one particular scene that had 17 characters who, in a moment, all needed to go poof, like this. And I could not keep this straight. So I went and collected my nephew Colton's Playmobiles, and I set them up on a table, and I took a photo, and then I like moved them, and I knocked one down, and like, you're dead, or like, you're sitting, like, you're here, knife hand up, whatever, and boy, did that help. So that's maybe a new hack that I realized I needed on this one that I may have to deploy again. There are no shortage of Playmobiles with these kids around. So, yeah.
I have another question.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll just jump right in. So you said that you have some Hollywood actors in mind when you're doing this, and I was just wondering who Ridley was.
Oh, okay. So Ridley's actually not an actress. She's the one who is not an actual human being. She was inspired by a video game character. I played through a video game, and the lead actress. So video games now, really, in like a open world immersive game, they look like movies, and they have these cut scenes, which are like little scenes, which you don't play it, you just watch a scene unfold, and they're all completely acted out by real actors who put on motion cap. So they're mapping their expressions, and they're recording their voices, and their movements are all motion capture of a real person. And this character in this video game, she's a soldier, not really a soldier, a mercenary in the Peloponnesian War. She's Greek. And just the most phenomenal voice acting, just the characterization as a character in this video game series that I've played for a long time, phenomenal, and was a huge inspiration for like what Ridley physically looks like. So yeah, and all my files, everyone else has a photo of like a real headshot, like a real person, and then there's this like video game screen capture of this fake person. But yeah, she's actually the one person, and I can't really I can't really picture anyone that I know who's an actor who could play, who I would want to play Ridley. I really don't know.
That's why I asked.
Yeah,
I wanted
difficult
to know,
part.
it's like, who would she play
Yeah,
Ridley?
difficult part. I mean, you know, again, the video game character is quite distinct and probably 5'11", I don't know, but she's quite tall and Greek and has all the same appearances of Ridley. So that was actually a big inspiration. I mean, sometimes I don't tell people what actors I have in my head because I don't want to spoil their imagery. But if someone asks me, I'm happy to, you know, tell them. I'm like, oh yeah, this person is this actor in my head, and this person is that actor in my head. So yeah, you know, I'll happily share anybody else. But do you want to ask? You asked me about Ox Devere before. I think we probably talked about this the first time we talked, but he already knows. As I said, this is my little TED Talk, so y'all are in for another long ride. My name is Parker Jamison, which does sound like a pen name, but I didn't want to write under that. So when I was thinking of what I would use, put on the front of a book, pretty quickly came to me the name Ox Devere, because, well, a few years ago, I heard two Shakespearean actors out of England, pretty esteemed guys, discussing how the man we know of Stratford-upon-Avon, William Shakespeare, was this kind of like a grain merchant who acted on the side and whatnot, and his parents were illiterate, and his kids were probably illiterate, and he never left the country. How this guy could have written the works of William Shakespeare, and they said, couldn't be done. William Shakespeare was a pen name for someone else. And I was like, wait, I always thought that was some weird conspiracy theory. I was like, get out of here. But I was like, I'll hear them out. And they spoke for about 20 minutes and they laid out their case. And they said, there are books now that are written on Shakespeare's understanding of the law. Like, he wrote about people in Italy living at the time that he couldn't possibly have known unless he had been there. He was educated in all sorts of things when books were not available. He didn't go to any school that we know of. But there was a man who was known as a phenomenal writer, skilled in everything, educated at the best private library in England at the time, who was actually a member of Queen Elizabeth's court. And his name was Edward de Vere, the 17th Earl of Oxford. And though he was lauded for his writing, no writing of his really remains past teenagehood. His life matches up with the works and details of William Shakespeare's work so well, it's actually astonishing. And one of the sealing facts of all of this was I saw there are 6 verified legal signatures of William Shakespeare of Stratford-upon-Avon. 6. And every single one of them looks like a guy who can't write his own name. Like, he actually really could hardly write his own name. And I was like, oh, okay, so this guy did not write for a living. There's no way that guy wrote for a living. So the more and more I learned about Edward de Vere, the 17th Earl of Oxford, I was just overwhelmingly convinced the reason he didn't publish under his own name was because he was skewering members of the inner court, Queen Elizabeth. And if he did that under his own name, he would have been ostracized. So he didn't. I don't know how it came to pass that he took on this, young actor from the Globe Theatre, but yeah, and actually, funny story, but this past summer, no, last year, I don't know, recently, my parents were in England for a conference and happened to encounter a guy with the last name Devere, and as my mother is the amateur genealogist, she just happened to talk about the name, and turns out we are actually related to the Devere family. So, didn't know that, kind of cool. Family name I'm using to publish. But anyway, if anyone wants to go down this rabbit hole, you will be convinced. It is incredible. And it's actually not even that weird now. There are 2 camps in Shakespearean scholarship. The Stratfordian, the traditional one. And they're like, he probably went to school here. He might have done this. We don't know if he went here. We're not sure about that. I go, that's not a biography. and the Oxfordian scholarship, which believes that it was the 17th Earl of Oxford writing under a pen name. So it's not as kooky as I thought it was at first. Not nearly, but that's where I got my pen name. And I was like, that domain is definitely free on the internet. Ain't nobody have that name. So it worked out. Yeah. Oh, but how many people have read it, by the way? Anybody here read it? Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, we have some in the back if you want to get your own copy. The library has this cool one. If you're a Topsfield person or other affiliated libraries.
We just love having you check out books. We'll find a way to get you. You're not going to leave empty-handed from this library.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
First one, too. I gave away my first copy because somebody wanted to read it. Do you have the first one, too?
Not here.
Okay, that's
So
all right.
sorry.
I'll get it.
Yeah.
Well,
I know where you can get it, though.
it looks like we might have one more question.
How do you decide how many to print?
Oh, I can just keep printing them. So I don't, when you buy them online right now, you can buy them through Amazon, you can buy it through Barnes & Noble, you can buy it through a printer called Ingram Spark, which distributes to libraries and whatnot. They will print on demand. So when you go online and buy one, they'll print it and ship it to you. I have a stash that I ordered printed for me, so I can, give them to people in person, sell them in person. And I try to put in a fairly big order because when it first comes out, I have a launch party, and a lot of people like to pick up their books and have them signed and stuff at the launch party. So I think I ordered 130 maybe the first time. So these are sort of the holdovers of the 130. So yeah, but I'll hopefully need more soon.
Well, thank you everyone for coming out today, and
Yeah, thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Parker, for coming by.
Thank you. It's
Maybe we'll
good to
see
be
you in another
back.
year.
Yes, next year. That's gotta happen.